Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Headlines WWE NXT review. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and as promised, I've sorted out my lighting. Ooh, I've had time to do it. James got no idea what it looks like. It's just
none.
Yeah. Anyway,
but it is funny. It is funny to hear a grown man talking about their lighting. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
When I did a film production at uni, and one of the guys there always called light. He's from Poland, and he always called lighting lightning. So, we need to adjust the lighting. So it's just like we knew what he meant, but you got to adjust the lighting. It's like, I get you what you mean, Polish man. Anyway, yeah, I'm joined by which side is James? It's this way. I'm joined by James Boyd of One Nation Radio once again to talk about NXT. How are you doing, James?
Doing good. This might be my least favorite episode of NXT this year, but, thanks for inviting me on.
So, something that really made me laugh was, last week, I was like, actually, I might invite James on. This was before I'd watched the episode. Then I saw the announced card, and I was like, it's got Dexter Lumis versus LA Knight. I'll ask James next week. I'm not that mean. I'm not going to make him watch this episode. Then this week was just a building block episode, just kind of things happening, things kind of build. As in, technically, none of it was awful or bad. It's not Monday Night Raw. Nothing was damaging on it. I didn't leave the show going, I hate wrestling. That's what I did on Tuesday. But again, it was all very low key. It's all very building block. Yeah. And to be fair, this is kind of what NXT did when it was just developmental, really. But before, they would have episodes like this. And you'd get quite a few complaints, NXT is overrated and overblown. It's like, but this is, for me, these are the kind of shows which down the line reap the rewards. It's just like now. It's obviously just a much more low-key episode. And it's not a lot happened. It was building block stuff. Stories continued. Character arcs happened. Most importantly, is my critique on Raw. The events that happened were driven by character. My God, what an amazing idea. Instead of things being driven by plot points that they have to happen, they're driven by character, and suddenly the world feels alive. And obviously, as soon as we go off live here, AEW Dynamite's going to start, so it's like a wrestling kind of crunch right now to get everything in time. But yeah, it was a very building block episode, and I'm assuming you agree, James.
Yeah, I think the last 2 weeks were, obviously after the pay-per-view, or the pay-per-views, to get to their next, the start of their cycle. And I thought that, after the swerve, or getting to the swerve thing we're going to have next week, getting to the women's tag match, or Street Fighter, Tornado tag match, or whatever they're calling it, and then in 2 weeks having Mercedes versus Raquel, like, that's all that serves, all that was done over the last 2 weeks. So, they're back to their traditional way of building. It's just now it's a 2-hour show, and there's still no crowd. Like, once we get, allegedly towards the summer or the end of the summer, like, once we get Full Sail with 400 people in it back up and running, like, I think it's going to feel a lot better. Like, because I personally, like, I've hated the NXT crowd, especially recently. Like, when it's like 25, 50 people, like, I hate that 50 people they let into the building. I really do.
Because they were, back when it was Full Sail, there was the collective of fans. They were like NXT super fans in a way, but they weren't super fans that would go the way to kind of, like they are, they're not exactly a press a button to make a noise. They're not that crowd. They're not when the wrestlers were standing spaced when it was in the performance centre. When they were essentially like, it was like over a queue, like it was a studio recording of a music video. It's like, and now dance. it was like that, really. Yeah. But in my head, I'm picturing the 70s, like, when they do it for, like, I want to say it's soul music, but I don't know if that's right. It's just in the studio and it's just them dancing. I can see the.
Are you thinking of Soul Train?
I think I'm, yes, because I'm not English. I've only seen the odd clip. Sorry, because I'm not American. I've only seen the odd clip of it. But it's that open studio and it's just people on the floor dancing. That's what I'm
like. Soul Train is basically like, if you ever heard of like American Bandstand or the I'm trying to think of who or the Ed Sullivan Show, where it'd be a group of youths, let's say youths, right? Yeah. And they're there with musical acts and they play their whatever single they have and people dance or whatever else. And then like there's an added element where like the people on Soul Train could actually like really dance well. Like, so they would put them in a line and they would walk up and down the line and they would, basically like showcase to like the WGN station like the new dances or whatever else, and which it became a thing. Like Soul Train was an institution for like Saturdays, but I think it's been done for a minute though. R.I.P. Don Cornelius. We can move on.
We're timely with our references. It's fair to say.
Yes. You are.
So because that reminded me, it's Oscar season. I've been catching up on Oscar films I've not seen before. Over the weekend, I watched Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and there's a scene in that where they're showing the youths, and keep in mind, I'm from the Midlands of England, and I was watching these white people kind of dancing, and I've introduced it like that for a reason. I saw them dancing, and my reaction was, what in the white nonsense is this? Watching them dance. And I'm a pretty white person myself. It was too much for me. I was just watching it going, oh my, what is this? Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I know Sidney Poitier is a great actor, and was, and then like Jordan Peele used that as inspiration to make Get Out. So it was like,
I got vibes from that actually. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, it does. Yes. Yeah.
It all connects.
Yeah. Well, I won't talk about the other films I've watched because that's a massive tangent. We'll just say I didn't get anything out of Nomadland, but Judas and the Black Messiah and Promising Young Woman I really enjoyed, and then Nomadland, I was like, I guess. All right then. That is a massive tangent. I'll bring it back down to earth. So this episode of NXT, I don't really feel like there's a major plot point to talk about really. Is normally we'll start like a major talking point from the show, but there isn't really. There's lots of little things that happen, so I feel like it's kind of the best way to cover this show is to cover it in order, as those little things just happened. And maybe by us doing that, this review will be done in an actually timely manner. We'll see how it goes. Mine and James reviews don't go that way. As we've just proven, we go on tangents. We stay there for a bit. Right, so starting off with Dakota Kai, joined by Raquel Gonzalez with Mercedes Martinez, and as I was saying earlier, the advertised match I saw was Lewis and Knight. This week it was Dakota Kai versus Mercedes Martinez, and I've got a lot more hope for this one. Starting out with a banger of a pairing in an NXT stacked women's division, and the match itself, I felt like there was one mistake early on, but for me the landing was rough enough that kind of helped add to the purposely rough spots later that soon followed. However, in the end, Martinez made the mistake of lamping Raquel at ringside, lighting her up for a DQ attack, and that has led into a Spanglish beatdown as the champion Gonzalez absolutely took none of that cheap shot. Completely went after Mercedes Martinez, and then we ended in a DQ. My immediate worry was it's a bit Monday Night Raw to do that. To that square finish. The only reason I wasn't as down on it is Raquel Gonzalez's character hasn't suddenly turned pure babyface because she reacted like that. For me, that's something I quite liked about it. But yeah, James, what did you make of this?
As far as the match goes, I thought they'd have a better match. I've struggled with Mercedes' role in this division since she's signed and been in. Her role is obviously to be in good matches and get eventually beat by somebody I think is at the top of the card, so that's fine. I just wish they didn't change her approach to how she was wrestling. Before she was a bit more of a technician, and now I guess maybe because of the lack of size now that due to Raquel leaving and let's say Bianca and Shayna, it seems like they're pushing her more towards a bruiser type brawler, and I feel like it was more of a service when she was a technician that can actually throw down if needed to. But it I guess it's neither here nor there now, but I thought that her and Dakota got going later in the match, and I think the story is. I think there's a story brewing here where eventually Dakota and Raquel are going to split due to Dakota's insecurities as being a geek, because they keep pushing on commentary that it's both their titles, but but we'll keep it at my house. Almost almost like Debo with the stealing Red's bike and Friday is like it's both our bikes, but I just keep it at my house. Like nah, but it's this whole thing is like this whole run has been Raquel is the ass kicker and Dakota is the geek. And Dakota, even last week with the with her, getting upset and blowing up at Mercedes for wanting to challenge for the title, like you can see that it's something is up. And then like she, towards the end, Mercedes is having her way with Dakota, and then Raquel comes in and just lays just a vicious beatdown on Mercedes, and Mercedes, I'm sorry, Dakota's there just kind of like, yeah. And it's like, eventually you can't just, eventually that's going to happen. Like they're playing, they're starting to show the early seeds of it, but you can already see it.
It's the immediate thing I jumped to was the relationship between the George W. Bush and Tony Blair back in the early noughties, where America would do a thing and essentially Britain would just be like, yeah, you're so cool, America. You're so cool. And we'd be like, well, we're best friends, aren't we, America? It's like, what? Oh, I'm doing my own thing. It's just so weird. And it's that. There's the big dog, and then there's the person next to them, just kind of like singing their praises, like in the high school bully type of thing.
Yes, like Bush and Cheney are like, want to do war crimes, and they're like, people looking around, and like Blair's like, yeah, kinda.
Politics.
Mass destruction, sure, they're there. Absolutely.
We've covered the Oscars. We've covered early noughties politics. Next up. Where will we go next? I got that at high school, but I'm trying to think of a better example to actually use. But yeah, it is that kind of feeling of the big charismatic dog, and then the person going, yeah, it's in the background. Yeah. Anyway, it's a bit of a shame because they are such a great act, and I thought for a second like, oh, this is great. We're going to get the kind of old dynamic, even though one of them's champion now. But they didn't really go that way at all. It's like, oh, that's a bit of a shame. Oh well. Yeah, we'll see what goes after. I'm assuming next week will be Mercedes Martinez lamping Gonzalez. Just again, kind of like it. See what happens again. Maybe Martinez gets the overwin. That's the WWE way. That it's a 50-50 booking. I don't mind as much as you win. No, you win. No, you win. No, please, you win. So that's a cycle I don't like on Megos TV. But if they're exchanging stuff like this, I'm fine with that. Like, to be fair, I paused this show to watch Evil versus Toro Yano in the blindfold thing because James folding his arms. But because I was like, I got myself way too excited when I guessed it on Keeping It Strong Style. So it just so happened to be that was the show where it was kind of announced, and I got myself way too excited with the nonsense booking ideas they could do, and I generally, as it was, I didn't realise it was that show till I saw people tweeting about it. It's like, oh, that's today, and I paused NXT to only watch that match, then come back and finish the review. And it was nonsense. It was the exact nonsense I was expecting. I don't know what. I wasn't expecting anything else. They didn't do my idea, which I was really excited for, but doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine. I'll leave it. Anyway, yeah. I've lost my point now because I just remembered that match. And let's move on to, speaking of comedy, let's move on to Cameron Grimes. I'm sorry, I just peeped my audio. Cameron Grimes. He's in a jeweller's. A line that generally got me. Have you got someone special? I do. Me. Just that got me. That did. But the entire thing was building to that cameo we've all been waiting for and hoping for. Where as soon as Cameron Grimes entered the shop, there was somebody reading a newspaper, and he could just see like the side of his head. It's like immediately, he's like, "You can't hide your grey from me, Ted DiBiase." I know that's you there. And he bought a flashy watch, James Incognito. Who could it possibly be? No idea. But yeah, Cameron Grimes buys a flashy watch, but it's not $1 million watch. It just yet again inciting another "damn you, Ted DiBiase" as he puts fist to the air. I love the Cameron Grimes character, and for me, this was another. I love this skit, and for me, this is a really good follow up to his main event last week as well. So they gave him a bit more kudos in the ring, and then gave you more silly comedic character. So yeah, are you still in on the on Big Money Grimes?
Yes, I am. I wish they had. I don't know if we start seeing DiBiase regularly, like he goes to do something because he's rich, and then DiBiase upstages him left and right in person, and it's a running gag. I'm cool with it. Otherwise, I think they used it too early using DiBiase's cameo, because I felt like you could have got him potentially, in a program somewhere for a big match or a title, and then he ends up getting foiled by DiBiase. Or maybe, it becomes a time where DiBiase champions somebody in a program that versus Grimes with a proxy. I'm interested. Anything, I'm good with anything pretty much Cameron Grimes does, because he's such a geek and he's super talented, and he's almost at the point where he's so good and people like him, and you can see the comedic skill that and timing that you can beat him like a drum almost, and he'll still stay wherever he's at. Plus, and if he wins, it's everyone already likes him anyway, or at least or he's entertaining anyway. So yeah, he's almost in a win-win situation almost.
I feel like he's been slowly getting to this point ever since he ended his feud with Loomis, which for me was turn off TV. I really hated that feud, but they've done a really good rehab with him, and I laugh almost every time he's on screen. And even if he's having a serious main event, he entertains me. I feel like that's good. Yeah, you follow up the serious Kyle O'Reilly main event, serious in quotation marks, because of the way that it was set up, with interesting style choices for Kyle O'Reilly. I'm just going to say it. What is with that man?
I think his thing is that he's such he's eccentric, and he's playing up the eccentricness, but shades with a fedora and denim jackets, maybe 2 out of 3, not all 3.
Yeah.
It's maybe maybe he'll leave the fedora or leave the glasses, but no. Also with the denim, it's he's trying too hard. Happy-go-lucky, goofball thing is cool, but the strength of O'Reilly since October has been, he's in a matchup with somebody and he brings out the tension. That's what he's best at, doing the tension. And I think that's basically where almost all of the great NXT promos ever came from, is there's a matchup and you focus on the matchup and, your paths that led you to this point or your differences. I think that's what NXT is best at, the confrontation business and less so the personality business.
Yeah, I think that's why for me I've called it more of a super indie kind of thing over the course of time. Is the kind of characters that have worked well. Elias really was never going to fit in NXT. You could see as soon as he went to the main roster, and that's why I've said with Loomis as well. He's just not the kind, because he's so I call him character driven. That's the kind way I'll put it. That I feel like he's more suited for the main roster, just because NXT just really isn't. They've adjusted. They've changed a bit in this 2-hour USA era, and
definitely.
So that stuff is more there, but it's still got that super vibe to it. You're still getting Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly main eventing a stand and deliver with their massive kind of brawl match, which again felt like a big indie main event, and I mean that as a massive positive, like a big main event Ring of Honor would have put on type of thing. Yeah, it's we've got a very strong Ring of Honor showing that WrestleMania week with that and Seth Rollins Cesaro. It's like a showcase of that era.
Well, I mean, there's also Owens and Zayn.
Yeah, as well. They were also given time. They had a YouTuber, the one that didn't box, which one of it was. So yeah, they actually gave time to them to actually go out and have that kind of match. Which is that's how lovely. Now back to Raw. Oh, screw you, screw you, Vince. I feel so. Again, just nobody watched that show. Seriously. Anyway, so the next segment was Grizzled Young Veterans. and in their dapper suits, all talking as the awesome champions that they are in all but actual title. And they ragged on MSK for not defending the titles against them. And just saying that they're two of the biggest knobheads I've ever met in my life. It's crying that. It's like, yes. Hearing the word knobheads, just, yes. Pronounced correctly as well. You don't say knobheads. No, knobheads. Just hearing that on American TV, that was lovely. But it was Ciampa and Toothless Timmy who answered the call. And Thatcher kind of taunting with the shoes off if you hate Gibson chants. Like, oh, yes, it's back. And Tommaso Ciampa taking off his shoe for the shoe attack, going after them. And I was like, oh, yeah. I thought that was lovely. It's to attack him with the shoe. And finally for Ciampa and Thatcher to kind of arrive in the tag scene to go with that stuff and to feel like a great act the moment they've walked out after doing their promos. I felt like, oh, yeah, these matches are going to be absolutely fantastic. And this was a great character promo beforehand just to get us ready for the fact that, no, next week you're getting this match. So, oh, yes, great. The perfect kind of hype and build promo type of thing to do. But yeah, what are you making of Grizzled Young Veterans?
I like Grizzled Young Veterans. I've always liked Gibson, like even from the first time I saw him in, I believe it was the second UK tournament. Like he's a special kind of heel, or like, maybe I'm overstating things by saying special, but like he's the type of heel where it's like he sets up everything else up for the babyface to be the star of, the operation, but he's not boring at the same time, and also like with his promos, like you give him he's a person that, like, please give him the mic for 60 to 90 seconds every time for every match, so he can get himself some heat and he can have that carried into his match. Like I've always liked him. I've always liked Grizzled Young Veterans. I'm glad they're here, and I think like they're going to be instrumental, or they already are, but they're instrumental in like rebuilding this tag division that used to be great. So like with the MSK coming in, with the formation of Toothless Timmy and Old Man Ciampa, in Legado, like in obviously Imperium, like you have a making of like top tag teams, that could be champions. Obviously, it sucked that Birch got hurt, but like you have like these tag teams that you can go to and have great matches whenever called upon, and like I'm excited. Like I remember, if I believe correctly, weren't they in the semifinal of the Dusty Cup this year?
Yes, they were. Yeah. So it's like this also, they mentioned that also, like, so like this is also playing on that as well. So I'm interested to see like where they go forward. Like I really like Thatcher and Ciampa, obviously, but like them together makes all the sense in the world. Like they're just the Grizzled Veterans, and it's looking at like the Grizzled Young Veterans versus the Grizzled Old Veterans. Like, yeah, I'm in. Yes, amazing pairing, and just a nice little promo to set that up. Again, not much to talk about this week because this was just the little promo setting it up. So yes. It's more to talk of. Sweet. Yeah, so it's a building block. Not that much to judge. Yeah, if I was by myself, this would be a 30-minute review. It's just things happened. Not really much else to say. We got I just want to give a quick note on the Tian Sha promo. A bit bohemian. Just going to put it out there. It's just a tad. And as soon as I logged onto Twitter afterwards, like, oh no, seriously, like everyone's saying that. Cool, cool, yeah. Yes,
it looks like Bohemian Rhapsody album work. Yes.
Yeah, I'm still into that. It's because it feels so different. I kind of like the cinematic presentation they've gone with it. I don't know where they're taking it next, if there is anything after what they've done. I don't think there is.
I have the same questions. Like, what is the shelf life on this? When is she going to wrestle? And like, how you protect, the semi supernatural. Even the henchmen like Boa in I'm blanking on her name, Zaya. So yeah, I maybe they're due for Zaya to come out and squash somebody else soon.
Yeah, just to get them in the ring, to just go with that. Yeah, I mean, obviously down the line, I feel like it is an act that can challenge for the title, but they're obviously just not there yet. It feels like they're figuring out the character more than anything, and NXT is being used as NXT, really, to kind of figure that out, which I'm never against. I never quite got it, like back when it was just on the network and you had some of that amazing NXT crowd chanting at, it was either Duke or Sophia, just chanting "You can't wrestle" at them. I'm like, but you're watching the developmental show. Like, that's surely, this is the one place that is fine. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were getting a series of promos, and next up we got another strong Swerve promo with an actor playing Rich Latter in the movie in the background. And I love the presentation of these promos. They feel so different to everything else. Screaming character. I'm assuming you're feeling the same.
Yeah. I think that they're overdoing the number of people doing promos backstage, but his happened to be the exception because they're dissimilar from anything else. Like, everybody else is back behind some dark lighting, and he is like in a room. Obviously, they've noted his work as a doing rap as well. Like, yeah, so it fits. It's working on the character stuff that people always talk about you need to do, and like, I feel like he's taken, for as good of a wrestler as he was last year on television when he had opportunities, I feel like this is where, like, you know, if people didn't take him seriously as somebody that can rise up in the card and be on takeovers consistently, like, this is the thing that people thought was missing. And like, after he gets dispatches of Leon Ruff and moves on, like, I think then we'll start seeing, like, this is what all this paid off for. Now he's going to be at the top of the card. And I've been waiting because, I mean, Swerve's awesome.
And
it is before Rich even started, even knew Swerve. So, like, I've always thought that, like, just in the ring, he was always a great wrestler. So,
yeah, for me, it was when, cause I'm certain I must have seen a Shane Strickland match before Lucha Underground. Because I knew of Shane Strickland, pretty certain I'd seen him. But as what was he called? I wanted to say Switchblade, that's Jay White. What was he called?
I'm blanking.
He had the sniper gimmick thing.
It wasn't Killshot, was it?
Killshot, it was Killshot, that was it, yes.
Okay. I always will mix up him and AR Fox, which is crazy because they had that killer match where they went through glass. So,
yeah, I was going to say, because him in Lucha Underground, he was amazing. Then they had the match with AR Fox, and that was, for me, one of the matches of the year. Something incredible. Like, every year, Lucha Underground threw out a match like that, which is just like, this is fantastic. And, it was him and AR Fox in an amazing match. And it was a shame when he came to NXT, and he was kind of just floating about for quite a bit, appearing on 205 Live, doing things, never really establishing himself. And then, as a babyface, he was never really, like, he put on a good performance, but then nothing ever came of it, really. Until he did the thing you have to do in WWE to get any character, and that's become a heel. It's the only way possible. And it's happening with Swerve. Become a heel, and suddenly bursting with character. And to be fair for Leon Ruff as well, like, those two in this feud, they've benefited from it so much. It really has been a really strong feud. And I'm excited for their Falls Count Anywhere match next week, which is what this promo was building to, getting announced later in the show. And yeah, we've got a Falls Count Anywhere match with these two, and it fits what we've seen so far as well. It's not a, let's do a Falls Count Anywhere match, that'll be exciting. It's a, no, you've seen how they've been going at each other for the last few weeks. I feel like this is a just match to fit what's come before it. It's, yeah,
it fits the what this the tension has risen to. I just think that it's kind of weird that, like, like, it's still middle of the mid card and you're getting a stipulation match, but it's on TV, so like it is appropriate. Like, if this was some derby match or some best friends match, we would say it's appropriate, but it's like it's a little weird because I think, like, it's easier to get over that kind of thing in front of a crowd a bigger crowd as opposed to the 25 people or 50 people we're going to get watching this match come next week.
Yeah, we were slightly talking about the crowd because I think we went on a tangent, just a massive tangent into something else. But yeah, for me, the crowd, they're better than when it was just the wrestlers again. Oh, that's the tangent. We accidentally went to the Soul Train. Yeah, so that era of NXT, the Soul Train era of NXT, I was never that big a fan of. It's what it's called now. And then when it was no fans and it's just a Thunderdome screen, for me, yes, it had like very little atmosphere, but it's the fact they were playing the atmosphere of a full arena, even though it's NXT and a much smaller thing. I was just like, you've got the audio from Full Sail. You can use that. You don't have to pretend it's a full arena. For me, that it just meant what I was seeing didn't match what was played to my ears.
And that's the most draining thing, because like they're not those fans aren't allowed to sit. Like they're told to stay on their feet the whole time. And then like you'll see when they in the right time with the right match, you're watching it and you see if somebody do something that's spectacular, or they're going back and forth with big strikes and they can almost in haymakers. You could feel. I'm watching. I could feel that and know that like I've watched enough wrestling to be like, this is the part where you're supposed to get into it. But then you'll look and you'll see that the Full Sail fans that the hardcore ones that they've let into the COVID haven, and like and stand there for 2 hours at a time for like the last couple months, and it's like they've it's like magic, right? Like they've seen all the magic tricks, and they're kind of like, you'll see them pat on the plexiglass in the cage every so often, but it's like outside of that you feel nothing from them being there. So it's almost like a weird where it's like I almost feel better if you just not have them on screen, you have them in the back to be like live ambiance or whatever else, as you have just the Thunderdome, the mini Thunderdome, just in the backdrop. I feel like that might be better.
Because they really do work when adding the ambiance. They really do work with that, but when you're visually looking at them and you're like, oh, this is, you're not going for the thing. If you look at the crowd during an NXT show, more often than not, you'll either get a giggle or they won't be reacting to the thing a lot of the time, which is really weird. Like I had it when I think it was in the main event, in one of the main events for NXT, like Finn Balor carrying Cross, it might have even been, and just in the background they were just it's just like, come on, mate. Like, come on.
Yeah, and the crazy part is like, that happens, and then like 30 seconds later they're chanting, "This is awesome."
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
It's not like, it came into the conversation recently of Mustafa Ali's stairs match with Buddy Murphy, because Mustafa Ali somebody retweeted out how fantastic they thought that match was, and that's sitting on like 5,500 likes, as in internet wrestling fans seem to agree on this, that it was an amazing match. And something I find quite interesting, Mustafa Ali, they were given no disqualification, but they were told you cannot use any props. And just, you can't use any weapon at all. And so apparently Mustafa Ali, according to him, he then went, can we use the effing stairs? Something. They were like, okay, fine, use the stairs. So that was him and Buddy Murphy trying to come up with an amazing no DQ match when they could only use the stairs. And the thing I remember is the live fans, with this fantastic match where they were only using the stairs and it was amazing, they were chanting, "We want tables." It's just like a group of lads on the front, the rest disinterested. If you count chanting "We want tables" as interested or engaged, and the rest were just kind of out of it, and it's really weird. It's an amazing match with a almost against it atmosphere. It's really weird, but it's not the same as what's happening here, where they're seeming like they're meant to be there to add to the atmosphere, and they will join in with the chants once they get going, but then also during that same match or moments earlier they look bored out of their mind and they're not really paying attention, and it takes away, and it doesn't mix, and it matches. Add on to that, you see them bored out of their mind, and you've got the fan audio playing. that's the disconnect when that happens.
Right.
So yeah, I don't put as much blame on the producers for that, but when you're trying to do that with a crowd there, it's Again, it's not as bad as stuff I see on the main roster sometimes, but it is.
That's true, but I feel like I feel like almost in a way of them trying to have both, where they're trying to have the Thunderdome and the thrown-in audio, and also real fans. They don't really accomplish what they're really trying to succeed at. So it's rough. Obviously, you want fans. Yeah. You always want real fans there, but it's. So I'm not really gonna kill them, because obviously they're trying, but I just think like we've seen enough to know that like. At its best, it works, but a lot of times it just hasn't.
Yeah, it hasn't. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah. And I would say when I was watching one like Raw this week, there were two things that hit me about production. One was, and you see the massive difference, the filmed stuff for NXT and the filmed stuff for the main roster. It is night and day, the quality. As in, they knew what they were doing before the day, so they set up a shoot and they filmed a professional thing. And my God, like Adam Cole at the pool, you got the swerve thing, you got the Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, you've got all these things that were, planned out, and maybe they did this thing called a storyboard because they knew what they were doing and they set it up. They did an actual shoot here. Then you watch the main roster and it's clunky. And the camera, and you got Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke kind of awkwardly looking at the camera as it moves in because they're going to move out the way because it's time for the camera to move into Nia Jax. It's all clunky and weird. It's like, and like maybe you've practiced this 2 or 3 times. You haven't storyboarded it because then this crap wouldn't happen. It's just, I ranted about that last night. I've had my nerdy production rant. But for me, watching NXT really vindicated it. And I'm assuming watching AEW again will do the same. Where when you know where you're going with something and you've planned it out before the day of the show, you can do stuff like this. You can make a really, really strong video package. You can then show Kyle O'Reilly in a nice little pan. Can just pan to O'Reilly watching it in a little room. You can do all that. You can do all that stuff. Because you've got time to think it through. Anyway, let's move on to the next match. Toni Storm versus Zeda Vermeer in a surprise win match where the Aussie was out there to send a message to Zoe Stark through battering a rookie, but it all goes wrong. Stark came out and just as Toni Storm wanted. Stark came out, but that then distracted Toni Storm. As she got distracted as rookie Vermeer flew with the shooting star press for the win. This was one of those moments from the show that my Twitter was going crazy for. Like, really was like, oh my God, it's shooting star press. Asking the question of, have we ever seen a female hitting shooting star press? And like, but you can't ask that of me and James, who have definitely watched Japanese wrestling.
Yeah, but, I mean, isn't like a red arrow like a variation of a shooting star press? So I've seen that. By the way, I miss Suzuki, but I wish he hadn't retired. I think she's 24 now. Anyway, I've seen. It doesn't matter. It's a spectacular move, regardless if a man or a woman does it. But especially when it's a quote unquote an unknown entity that you've never seen before, and then like they hit the move. So it's like, we'll see what happens with this. Like, I'm afraid, it could be one of the situations where that's clearly a fluke. Tony comes out there next week or in the next couple of weeks and beats the living hell out of this woman. But either way, like, I'm interested to see what they do with Toni Storm and Zoe Sky in the future, because they've already had that match that was on the pre-show of Stand and Deliver. I wonder where they're headed. Like, are they going to just have another rematch, or is it going to lead to some type of escalation? Obviously, because of the relationship between the two, like, and also where we think this person's headed. Like, could this be where you get B. Priestley coming into NXT, the team with her good old buddy friend Toni Storm?
I hadn't thought about that. Possibly, yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah. Maybe if it's a way to debut her, if they're not going to do like a full package kind of thing. I don't know. We have no idea what she's going to get. It's they've got a lot of new faces coming in, between her, Sarai, and I remember. How do they say it in NXT? Sarai? Is that how they say
Sarai.
it? That's how they say it in NXT.
Sarai. So instead of Sarai, which
that's
how our English tongues, our English tongues it's either way, it's Sarai. That's how they pronounce it, so that's what I'm going with. So whatever. But I mean, they've reloaded and restocked as they've lost, the people that have gone to the main roster recently. So it's, and you see it up and down this card when you look at it. It's like this match, the Dakota and the Mercedes match, the tag match, the women's tag match angle that they set up with Indy and Loomis and Indy, and I'm not sorry, I already said Indy, but yeah, also have all that stuff. Like there's multiple storylines in the women's division in NXT, as always. Yeah,
and to see that on Wednesday as well with AEW Dynamite, just seeing the momentum there getting as well. It's like, oh yes, we're into something great here. Please don't screw this up, ice hockey. Please don't.
We've come a long way from like that AEW women's division talk, where it's like now it's like, all right, well, look how now that they were able to get some of their talent that they couldn't get in because of the pandemic and some injury people that were injured coming back. You see what they're doing now, and now you compare it to what they're doing on a weekly basis to the Raw and SmackDown Women's Division. Is like, all right, well, where's all that criticism now? Because like they're clearly a better women's division than Raw or SmackDown right now. It is NXT, AEW, and then a bunch of, or I guess you could throw in Impact. Then you also go like a bunch of stuff, and like the chaotic nonsense that is Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, and I'd even say SmackDown is leaps and bounds better than Raw as well. It's just
I'd agree.
It really is, but it's still both women's divisions. Look at it going into WrestleMania. They essentially ran the same program on both brands for both women's matches. As in, can they get along? Or they're going to face Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. They did that for both of them. It's like,
And they only had like 3 weeks to do a Rhea, and they still managed to do it.
Yeah. How do you do that? It's mental. Yeah. Anyway, Bronson Reed then faced Austin Theory. Beforehand, the challenger in Bronson Reed eyeing up the champion in Johnny Gargano in Gorilla. And, what are you guys doing? Dorks Austin. Just coming out there with this SNL skit. Like, what are you doing here? The Floridians, Californians bloody got it. Californians. Got it in the end. Trying to remember like a 13-year-old SNL skit. I finally did it. But yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's like Kristen, I've forgotten her name now.
Kristen Stewart?
No, well, Kristen Stewart. She's the Twilight
Kristen
actress.
Wiig.
Kristen Wiig, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, Kristen, different Kristen.
And Bill Hader, like that era of it. Will Forte. Okay. So yeah, that's the year I started watching. Anyway, so tangent. So this was the fall of the way as WWE breaks another indie? No. Well, LeRae is tricking her, and I do like that actually. That Indie's all sad and things, and LeRae not really helping her, more feigning helping her, and also guiding her to help Candice LeRae's interests and get her onto Shotzi and Ember Moon. It's like, we're seeing her manipulate Indie. And if I'm trying to find a role for Loomis, enlightening Indie to LeRae's ways could be at least a half decent reason for him to help her in a way, to help her move along in that way. Because again, everything in NXT seems to be character driven. I feel like, that could be like a decent character driven thing. He does it because he loves her, James. He loves her so much. But this match was Big Boy Bronson booming by a beeline beating, fending off Theory. That's why I stuttered. Fending off Theory at multiple turns to splash into victory. Broken Hartwell's romantic torment as Loomis came on down, caused a distraction, leading to Austin crashing into the creepy lad and getting swept under the tsunami. And after the break as well, Johnny put all the blame next to Loomis, and that's when we saw the manipulation from Candice, like directing Indie's anger towards Ember and Shotzi for receiving her flowers. But yeah, again, Bronson Reed getting to look really strong here, and they're building him in such a manner where I feel like it's just a matter of time before he probably even beats Johnny Gargano.
Okay, so the way they've built towards this, the person that should take the belt off him is Loomis. Do I want Johnny Gargano in a match with Loomis where he puts over Loomis and Loomis gets to defend in title matches with a belt? Absolutely the fuck not. But that is proper storytelling. I mean, you could do Bronson Reed wins, and then you could spin it off to where Swerve then follows up, and they go back to what they were doing earlier in the year. So, and make Swerve the North American champion. I mean, there's options, but I think they need to do something. I like the presentation they had of Bronson Reed over recently. Like, I like his music. I like his graphics. I like the all of the setup for his interest and all that kind of stuff. I like how he is different from the rest of the usual NXT. I like how they go in and use his size as the reason why he gets in and out of situations, and the tsunami and the splash. It reminds me of Piper Niven in ways, except obviously on a higher level because he's in there with higher level opponents. But I'm interested to see what they do with him. Like obviously they like him, but I wonder how far they're going to take it. Because him and Swerve and like Legado del Fantasma, like they all came up in that what was it, the summer 2019? What was the name of that tournament? Breakout tournament, right?
Yeah.
They're all in that, and like now it's kind of like they're now starting to get the keys to be able to be on the show and do all this sort of stuff. I think it's a year too late, but or should have been done a year earlier. But now they're starting to kind of like stretch out a little bit their legs. So yeah, I mean, I'll be cool with seeing Bronson Reed be the champion, but like I was just in my head I'm thinking like narratively it would be sweeter if like the way gets broken up because Indy leaves and it's Indy and Loomis, and you know how much like WWE loves like Beauty and the Beast type pairings historically. So I can almost just see it, the writing on the wall. Like hopefully they could do that and they would get away from that, away from Loomis and the title. Hopefully.
I've got a fear of a direction where they build to Loomis and Indy's wedding. They do a wedding segment, something like that. You got Johnny and Candice coming out as well. James Dean's back because he knows it's possible. I was trying to think what my other fear was. And then Austin Theory proclaims his love for Indy or something like that. It's just like I'm trying to think what's the darkest timeline they could go with this. And but for me, at least then Loomis is. I was going to say prize, but Loomis's champion is his heart for Indy Hartwell. But that gives room for Bronson Reed to become champion. And I'm fancy booking Loomis in something that the character would find important so that he can cling onto that over the title. And then the other fear is, then we might get Loomis versus Reed. The same issue again. It repeats itself. Yeah. And it's interesting as well, for all the Way could get called up as a different feeling group, having 2 men, 2 women. They are an entirely different dynamic to anything else on the main roster.
Yeah.
Vince doesn't like stables. So
that and like they're actually funny. So like Vince doesn't like that much. Like Vince's humor is set towards like pretty sophomoric type stuff, and like whether it's been pretty much anybody with comedic chops, like he kind of like infantilizes a lot of people. So I don't know if I'd like that as much because I just don't think it'd be as good. I just don't. Like when Theory a couple weeks ago talked about how he's gonna do the finger poke of doom after he won that gauntlet match, and then like Johnny was like, can't do that, I killed the business, and then Theory's like, but Johnny, we are the business. Like this whole setup of they are it's Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling with their 2 children, and Indy is and Candice is like chasing after her horny little daughter, and then Johnny has Junior, and Junior is bigger than him, which makes it for comedic purposes even funnier. But Junior is just dons a box of rocks. Like it's been a blast watching them figure this out after they spent forever trying to figure out how they're going to make Candice and Johnny work as a heel family. Like once they got these 2, like it took off for me and it worked. So I don't want them on the main roster. I don't want them on the main roster because I think it'll mess up whatever they got going. Like obviously, if it's time to go, it's time to go. But I would miss them. I would.
You could say they found the way. What do the high five thing in the middle? Oh yeah, there we go. I feel like that's a perfect way to move on to the next match.
But as far as the Theory thing, where you think like there's a possibility where Theory, shows his undying love for Indy, like I just think like I don't.
I don't want it.
It's not that I don't want it. I just wouldn't find it believable because like Austin Theory doesn't like him that age. He likes him a lot younger.
Plus the dynamic is a brother and sister. Like that's the dynamic for me. As in reasons to not do it. Reasons to not do it. If anything, have Austin Theory have him crying at the wedding when he's meant to not like it.
Yeah. Yeah, but in WWE, given like that, they'll
Give them shoes they'll run.
they've done incest storylines before. Like they'll do it. They'll do it again eventually, and we'll be just as disgusted. So, you're right. Like, I wouldn't put it past them to do that. I hope they don't, though.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed they don't. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on to Imperium versus Drake Maverick and Killian Dane. And after Imperium's approaches, Drake was very ginger around his big friend, but was he right to be so? Apparently no. But this match seemed to it got way more time than I was expecting. I don't know if some other thing ran short, but this match got a lot of time to really tease that dynamic out, really. It played on Maverick staying in longer than he really should have, ending up taking more of a beating because of it, because of his worry what might happen when he indeed does make that tag. Then, after he's made that decision to trust Dane, one of his fears comes true as Dane gets yanked off the apron and just isn't there for the tag, as he predicted earlier in the show. And then Wolf refused to wallop the Northern Irishman with a chair, letting the faces back in, but Dane's charge was unfocused, letting the mainland Europeans back in for a European bomb for the win. And it went on for a while. The main purpose of this is that tease of will Killian Dane join Imperium, and Alexander Wolf seems to be wanting to recruit him, while the other lads, they want to win matches. They don't really care that much about this, but it's like he's there for a reason. And given how Imperium works, I wouldn't be surprised if that's we find later that's a decree from Walter that he wants Dane or something like that, and Wolf is acting on his behalf. But it makes a semi-interesting dynamic to see the Dane and Maverick thing flipped on its head from when it started, when it was Dane not trusting Maverick. Now it's the other way round, of Maverick not trusting Dane. And going how these stories go, normally the Beast then doesn't have enough and will join the baddies and destroy Drake Maverick, or he'll fight them off. Either way, I don't really care. It's a bit of fun.
Yeah, this is some obviously we are now steeped into the Imperium cinematic universe, where you have Alexander Wolf and you have Killian Dane, and they're basically talking about their sanity days. And then a couple months ago you had Wolf and Bartel and Eichner reaching out to Thatcher to play on the ring conf days from Evolve and WXW, right? So that now we're just playing on we know you guys know these guys and where they're from and their connections. Obviously you have the NXT, but also deeper with the Walter and Thatcher connection. So it's cool for now, but ultimately, Walter's not there, so it don't get jumped until Walter shows up. Similar to when Walter showed up and beat the shit out of Ciampa. So as far as a tag team thing, it's a cool thing to do for Imperium at the time, but it's I almost want Imperium, Eichner and Bartel as a team to kind of face another big babyface tag team. Obviously, I mean MSK will be on the horizon. I don't think they wrestled in the tag team in the Dusty Cup, but I'm trying to think of another babyface tag team that's upper echelon. It mostly is heels right now.
Yeah, not upper echelon.
Am I blanking anybody?
Because the only one I can think of is Fandango and Tyler Breeze, which are they're not upper echelon.
They jobbed them out quick. Maybe once. Quite frankly, any Mustache Mountain or Mandrews and Morgan Webster to come through to kind of because it feels like they have all the heel teams, but only one babyface team right now, and that babyface team is getting all kinds of hell from them 25 fans.
There was also a promo that I did whine through because I thought it was an advert, but it turns out it wasn't. Where there's a bunch of people doing training and things. The Diamond Mines. So my assumption is they'll be heels, if there's, and it'd be MMA type thing. Apparently, somebody did put a thing out on, I won't say it was Instagram, but because I didn't see it, where they were just saying that we were pressured into something like this. The pressure makes us. It's the pressure. Oh, okay. So you lads posing with your muscles in the ring, you're probably the Diamond. Okay, cool. So so they're a new faction coming, and apparently they are one of those that were to do obviously, like, if NXT was running properly, there would be the kind of act that would have been doing the loop and getting a bit more practice. But because that's like not a thing right now, there's a lot less exposure to these kind of acts who are the developmental guys that have been there for a while, but they don't really go on TV because, again, they get their practice on the loop. I don't know what they're doing now, but it's Florida. For all I know, they're putting on shows regardless. But they.
Do you want to make predictions on people that are going to be in this? Because I have two off the top of my head right now.
So I've seen the picture with all the lads posing, but I don't know any of their names. So yeah,
okay.
I don't know if is Baby Lesnar in there.
I don't know who Baby Lesnar is.
Oh, there's a guy. He's so much like Lesnar, but so much better at the engaging with fan side. I cannot remember his name. What's his? Doesn't matter. I'm not going to find it. But yeah, all I saw were really muscly people, but it was like in a slightly darkened kind of thing. So all I can say is, surprisingly enough, these wrestlers are in good shape. But wherever they are, right? What are your predictions?
I was predicting people. I didn't know there was a group that's already been established that may or may not be them. But I was thinking, like, based on people we've seen in NXT before that they've wanted to do things with, but never got off the ground. I was thinking Marina Shafir, given her MMA background, and also Arturo Huas, who they've they've wanted to do stuff with. Obviously, is a good wrestler, but they did that vignette almost like a year ago where he talked about all the black belts he had and being from a war torn country, and then he had one match where I think it was Ciampa, and then we never saw him again. So it seemed like they wanted to they're somebody they like, but they never how do we get this person into it and up and running, and this would be a perfect place to have him in. The guy that does that does all the martial arts, he's going to be in this MMA camp almost. I think that'd be a good introduction.
Yeah, I agree actually. Yeah, I completely forgot about him because the only wrestler that I was like, oh yeah, he's not been on TV in a while, that I suddenly thought of was like, oh yeah, is Conor Reeves still employed by WWE?
God.
But
Conor Reeves in it.
Yeah, he's not gonna be in it. Don't worry.
Okay.
No way.
All right. Now if he shows up here and he's out here, because he's tall and he comes up with tape fists and he starts throwing strikes like he's Sagat from Street Fighter, I'm going to show up on this show and I'm going to say, you said it wasn't going to happen. You lied to me. You lied to me, Imp.
Fist like he's Sagat in the 80s. Just launching it there. Also, because of his theme, the best thing about him, it's C4 dollar sign. So he can't use it. He can't use the only thing. So put him in a faction, make him tall, serious with taped fists and everything. The exact opposite of what he was. He won't be in there. From what I call, they were all really ripped lads in the middle of that ring. They're all kind of look like MMA guys. So at least, if that photo is anything to go by, whoever it was.
Okay.
Anyways, after that we had a Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon, who were set to take on Aaliyah and Jessie Kamea, but it never got underway as two staffers at ringside have offered more presents. Earlier they got flowers, whilst now they've got a whole shebang, but it's a trap! Candice and Indy with a surprise attack with flowers and cupcakes. Just launching that man, hitting them all over. And the heels in the ring going balmy, trying to convince the referee that means they've won the titles, which led to the commentators feeling like they've got to just explain that no, they haven't won. They're just going over the top. They didn't ever play it. Wait, have they won? Don't do that. No, they haven't won. They haven't won. But yeah, there was a surprise attack on the champions, setting up next week's street fight. Assumably not with flowers and cupcakes. Assumably it'll be a bit more than that. But it was a different beatdown because of that. But it was the Raw thing of you got this match hyped. You're building to this match. It was a tag team match as well that's had to be put off quite a few times. And it's set to happen. They all come out, and then you do the Monday Night Raw thing of you do the swerve, and you just no, actually this is just an attack angle to set up something else that you're going to have to wait for. I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'm excited for the street fight. I reckon it will be a pretty strong match. But,
yeah,
I wouldn't say I'm more invested in Swerve and Rough, I will say that. But it's still, it's got the competitors in there. It's got enough animosity where I feel like, no, it should be a really strong street fight. And we've seen Rae in street fights, and every one of them is solid. So I don't really see a reason for this to be any different, really.
Yeah, Candice out of her mind. Shotzi, I have to assume is out of her mind given the type of bump she's taken. Like her and Dakota, as like they almost find a new way to kill themselves. Like every other match they're in. Ember is one of the best wrestlers. So like in that division. So like yeah, I probably have her as number 3 now. But anyway, just based on personal taste. But yeah, like. So I think she's with it, and like Indy is behind as a distant 4th out of those 4, but like it's a weapons match, so you can get away with her not being as good of a technical wrestler as the other 3. I think that I think the titles change hands here. I think that I think Johnny or Theory like get involved somehow in the match and helps change or turn the tables, and they end up becoming the champions finally. But we'll see. I'm interested to see the match though. I really am. I wonder. Loomis is going to come into play at some point in this.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm trying to think. Oh, what's he going to do?
So, do you think that? So, who do you think sent the flowers to Ember and Shotzi at the beginning of the show? Do you think it was Frankie, or do you think it was Candice?
Candice.
No, okay, so both sets of gifts.
Yeah, both sets were Candice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking that Frankie sent the first one and then Candice sent the second one. But okay.
I mean, they can easily use either one, really, to make it work. Okay. I was thinking it was Candice LeRae with the manipulation. So either she spotted something to manipulate, which is fine, or she manipulated it from the start, which is also fine. It's incredible. You plan things ahead, and turns out multiple directions are fine. It's crazy.
And we have another whodunit.
Oh, it's not going to be like. I was going to go back to an NXT one, but the one that came to my head was who attacked Samoa Joe in the car park back from TNA back in the day. We never found that out. He just turned up again with a dick on his face. It was so weird. Or did he lose it when he got? Oh, I can't remember. Because he had the drawing on his face. Did he lose the drawing after getting attacked, or did he get it? Oh, I can't remember. Oh no, because he showed up to help. He showed up and helped Kurt Angle, I think, and joined the Main Event Mafia. There you go. 2008, 2009 TNA. It's a bit rough in my head. I can place it still. Yeah, I'm quite. What are you making of Frankie Monet so far? I mean, so far she's just come out with her adorable little dog. This week he did a big old yawn, stealing the show. But there's again, I feel like it's hard to judge until we see her character actually like do a full entrance for a wrestling match and actually do it. But
yeah, they're slow rolling it, and I think that she's been effective as a shit stirrer, right? Like when she comes in and she, walks up on the brand new minted champion and says like, "I'm coming eventually." And then the next week where she interrupts EO's return interview, it pisses off EO, and then you have the flowers thing is like. That's why I think it's possibly her, because it feels like she's been stirring shit up with everybody that's on television in women's division. So I figured it was just her again. And then like that's why I thought the second batch was just Candice using what already had Indy down earlier in the show to further the rage, because she really wants to win the tag titles because she hates Shotzi.
I feel like it was just hitting me that I was applauding AEW last week for doing a show absolutely full with young talent and kind of moving stories along in that way as well. And I was thinking about this show. I was like, did NXT take a note from that and go, actually, it's not the end of the world if we don't put out a blockbuster show, but we do solid building. It's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. And I feel like that kind of helps give them kind of the faith to do something like this with Frankie Monet, where they don't have to rush it or do a big blockbuster main event debut match for her or anything. They can slow roll it and kind of build to something else and kind of establish her character a bit more. As long as they don't Dolph Ziggler her, just come out, hey, I'm Dolph Ziggler. Just, hey, I'm Frankie. Like, hey, Frankie. As long as they don't do that. Just having to introduce to everybody after doing a thing. Also, this was a show without Karrion Kross, without Io Shirai. Kyle O'Reilly only appears watching an Adam Cole video. There was a lot of top... And I know Finn Balor again was teased for next week. There was a lot of top talent just not on the show. And it was fine. Yeah. It wasn't the end of the world. And thank you, Monet. Again, they've not had to roll out a killer main event angle or anything. They can slowly roll it out. Again, it's, I'm guessing, slightly Hollywoody type gimmick type thing they're doing right now. The glitz and the glamour of it all. Who knows what she'll be like to actually wrestle.
Either way, they're pushing her or they're positioning her as she's a big deal. Like, this is different than like LA Knight just pretending to be a big deal and not really is, or not really is, and is not really. So yeah, I we'll see where she ends up landing and where she ends up going. I mean, there's options between Zoe, between Io, like she is there. Like, so I'm interested to see her get running eventually, but I'm not in any rush because I have enjoyed her, like, you know, stirring up shit. I really have.
Speaking of stirring up shit, Adam Cole's Poolside interview. He's saying that he's carried both Undisputed Era and NXT on his back for years. He doesn't want to carry the former anymore. Kyle's not ready to be NXT champion. Time will tell if he's ready for a main event spot, but as long as Cole is there, he's not taking his. And then he does the same for Karrion Kross as well, kind of hinting towards the championship, before then ending the interview by just going off on the interviewer. It's like, you're crap, you awful, you made me wait. When, of course, the best heel thing about it was Adam Cole was on the phone and the interviewer was politely waiting for him to finish. And he was like, I was killing time on the phone. And you're just waiting. It's like, it's awful interviewer, awful. Then we pan to Kyle O'Reilly looking all serious in a little room. And I thought, again, for me, night and day with this kind of thing compared to what we get on Monday Night Raw. This is leaps and bounds above what, if WWE tries to get across the same thing, it's a standard interview to the interview ring, like just there with the interviewer, with the little Irish lad. Like, that's it. That's all they do. I'm assuming he's little, but we know they make them crouch. So who knows? It's funniest videos backstage. You've seen Tom Phillips with like legs akimbo trying to look small. It's so weird. But yeah, it's just like, this was, you know, beforehand they knew where they were going with it. So that, okay, this week we can have Adam Cole give his interview, and they can set up a really high caliber production shoot for it. And for me, that adds so much to it and makes Adam Cole feel like a massive deal, because not only is it shot at a poolside, it's like a really high production that they've pulled out all the stops for him, so he must be a star, kind of stuff. Yeah, solid promo for me.
Yeah, I agree. This was the best promo or talking segment of the show, easily. And, you know, it's Cole being Cole. Like, he feels bigger than the average person that's in NXT that gets pushed. And, you know, he dresses well. He you know, delivers it, and like he's just great being a heel with delusions of grandeur and being like so small man angry. Like he's always been good at that. Always. So obviously they're not done with him and O'Reilly. Like, I believe that they're going to have O'Reilly, you know, get towards a match that they'll promote somewhere, maybe not on TakeOver, maybe somewhere else, but I feel like he's going to eventually get a title shot. And like the first thing that Adam Cole does before, to come back is to screw over O'Reilly. Like, I don't think this is over. I don't think it's over.
Oh yeah, because Adam Cole seems to not be letting it go.
Right. And because he can't fathom anybody in Undisputed being better than him, and that's the greatness of his character. He's always been jealous, and nothing's ever his fault. Like when he lost the title, or he didn't lose it, but when he had a chance at the title in New York against Johnny, and Johnny ended up winning after foiling them running in for the everybody Undisputed running in for the final fall. Like, the first episode back, he blamed he blamed Roddy Strong for it, right? And we thought that was going to be the potential end of Undisputed then, and ultimately they teamed back up for the Riddle stuff. But like, it's never his fault.
Yeah,
and that's what it takes to be a great detestable heel.
And
it's never your fault.
Yeah, and I really like how Adam Cole got that across with his words. When then he gets Kyle O'Reilly, who obviously he's not letting it go either, because he's in a dark room watching the interview. That's not something you do if you've moved on. you don't watch videos of your ex on Facebook if you're done with it. You moved on. That's not a thing you'd do. So, get over her, Kyle. It's all right. You can move on. You got Karrion Kross, big beefy lad. He's got a championship. Anyway, the main event was Legado del Fantasma versus Kushida and MXK. I must have MXK is an X for 2000. The elevation of the cruiserweight folk continues as the champion teams with the NXT tag team champions in the main event of an NXT. Or it's just NXT feeling more comfortable to not have to feature blockbuster main events with the biggest talent that they've got. They can run a main event like this.
Yes, and I also think that this is reaction to the crowd coming back and not liking MSK for some weird reason that I don't get. But so it was we know you guys like and respect Kushida. So next week or last week they had them make the save for Kushida, and then on this episode they had that promo backstage where MSK is thank Kushida for kind of taking them under his wing, and that's why he made the save for them. And it's okay. Also, it's Babyface is being friends with Babyface. Yes, that's cool, but also it's MSK people might be ready to turn on him, turn on them. Let's get them in there with Kushida and just off of this, just off of the love for Kushida, and respect for Kushida, you'll dig them because they saved him getting destroyed last week. So I kind of saw what they were doing and I appreciate it. And I did like a lot of this match, but I kind of don't like the idea of. I guess let's talk about the match first. Let's talk about the match.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So this was a quick-paced, frantic main event, building to Wesley fighting against the odds and staying in the fight for his team as Kushida had gone through the announce table. It made me laugh when they cut to him when he was against a barricade and one of the medics was just caressing his hair. He meant to be playing a medic last. So, what do you do when you're attending somebody? Oh, you're all right. What do you do when you say, oh, you're right? I don't know, pet them? Clearly not a medic.
Yeah. Check his airway? No. Caress his hair.
Yeah. Like he's a hurt puppy. It'll be all right. Carter was down at ringside too. I've learnt the names now. When I say learnt, I purposely jotted them down whilst I was making my notes so I don't forget them. And out at ringside, he was out at ringside too. And surviving a beating down long enough for Nash to recover. But then Kushida also made his way in, but given his state, he was clearly all over the place and was easily taken out by an Escobar Phantom Driver. And the Japanese ace just sucked all of the wind out of his teammate's sails as Wilder Mendoza double team cut off with the win. And then because the baddies all raised their titles for the end of that show, intention set. What title matches you get in next. You got your tag team match set. You got your cruiserweight rematch set as well. It was a fun and frantic main event, but it wasn't a show that ended on a massive kind of that's a big deal kind of note. It was a fine main event, and again because I am watching this after Raw, so Raw was the last wrestling show I watched. So this left me, I wasn't hyped or anything. I love a wrestling show and it leaves me feeling hyped and excited for wrestling, and Dynamite does that a lot. Well, this was just kind of an ending of another building block, I think, just to really cement that this was a building block show. Right.
I agree. I think the 3 weeks or the 3 episodes we've gotten since TakeOver, I feel like the only one where we got the real big triumphant type of traditional anyway to NXT was the O'Reilly and Grimes match where they just have a great match and Grimes he beats Grimes. The first week back was that 8-person mixed tag, which I just enjoyed for the fact of how silly it was, and given the story they're trying to tell, how well it was executed. And the fact that Johnny and Theory were bumping like they were Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels and Mr. Perfect and Dolph Ziggler all together, and Rick Rude for Ultimate Warrior. So I enjoyed that match, but this one was kind of okay, table set. We're going to get these matches eventually, and it's all these matches are rematches, though.
Yeah, that's my kind of WWE TV worry. Is that's how they think it should be done to kind of set something up. And that was my main complaint when I was talking about NXT last year. My main complaint was when we were getting a takeover, then we got a special, then a takeover, and you'd have those same matches, and in between you get that WWE thing where they're not really interacting with any of the other stories in the universe. It's just their own. Yeah. It's passing ships rather than a living world altogether. I feel like in 2021 have done a much better job of that, but there is obviously still that. It's still there a bit. It's still ingrained a little bit, and this is my main move for that. Where you to set up the match, you have every person who's going to be we're going to be seeing wrestling in a match together to then set that up. It's a very WWE way of doing it, and the reason that I can really now say that is because of AEW's existence. Where I watch AEW doing it, and I can comfortably say that no, you don't have to, because the fans have a memory. They won't forget. Right. They won't forget these people have a rivalry. It's fine, especially if you just run a promo. And I feel like that's a little thing that does pop up. I wasn't that hyped really after it.
I wonder if the finish was different. Like if the babyfaces went over, if we would feel the same way. Like I think a lot of or not a lot, but like the few times they've done trios matches with Legado, it feels like they've won every single one or everyone that's mattered. So like it kind of feels, big match, baby faces lose, you kind of get that deflated feeling. But I like Legado a lot, so it doesn't really, it's not that big of a deal. But it's like they almost never lose when they're all together. So like, are we going to get one where like eventually in a big spot they actually don't, and they put and somebody goes over them. I wonder when that's going to happen.
It's again because it just left me with that feeling of I've got absolutely no idea what to make a Photoshop for, because I need to commit to a title of some sort. And the Photoshop's gonna I'm going to be putting effort into this. I actually need something to cling on to. Turns out Zach Gibson's shiny bald head was fine enough. I'm really easy to Photoshop around because he's got no hair. Bold wrestlers, like for the win. Just yes, more of them, please. It wasn't one of those matches that left me thinking, I get really hyped about this when I'm talking about it. It's like, no, I'll recap what happened, but I wouldn't say it grabbed me or really made me excited really to watch next week's show. The things that came earlier did. This was like a relatively okay, fine, we're setting this up. Nothing really more than that for me. So, yeah, and we didn't do it. We didn't finish an NXT review in under an hour, but we gave it a good try. About an hour and 17 minutes, which is, to be fair, that's not overrunning for us. We're within time.
That's true.
Anyway, a big thank you for James for joining me for the NXT review. James, do you want to make all of your plugs for your stuff?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter at JamesBoyd87, and you can check out my show One Nation Radio with Rich Latta at One Nation Radio. We do a weekly show where we cover most of WWE, especially NXT. We cover AEW. We cover New Japan from time to time, big events, and we cover Stardom weekly, just about. Trying to think, is there anything else? We're kind of like a tentpole thing where like something basically like story of the week is what we'll go with first, or whatever else. But that's the gist of what we do. So check us out.
And also, I've had if you're watching on the YouTube video, his Twitter handle has been underneath him the entire time. As for me, this James Boyd 82 7. Oh, I got it right last time. It's always 50-50, and it's all because, of course, 7's curve at the top, just like a 2. That's enough to do me in. I'm a simple person. Anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at the Damn Implicate. That's damn as a damn. And you can follow me on Twitch at the Implications with 2 S's. I've been streaming there pretty regularly. Today I did a stream of Fortnite with my younger brother, and we're not very, very good at it. So watch us suck at it. Watch us suck at that game. I've also been streaming Horizon Zero Dawn every Tuesday, and I don't know when I'm next set to stream. I really should have looked at my schedule. I've got planned before plugging it on here, but oh well. And it's something that I really like. I'm now not live on here till Tuesday next week for another Raw review. Oh, it's nice, especially coming out of WrestleMania week, where it was like 2 late nights to stand and deliver. Then I did a different show on the Friday. Then it was 2 nights of WrestleMania. Then, of course, suddenly it's like, oh, I'm knackered. Then I've got a Raw review. Then a day break. Then an NXT review. It's like, oh, God, yeah. Having these Raw and NXT back to back and then, like, 6 days to recover. Oh, it's a dream. I love it. The weekends I've got energy again. I'm going for walks. I'm seeing... Yes, I'm playing it a bit over the top because that's more a COVID lockdown thing. But still, seeing friends again, it's lovely. So anyway, with that, I say thank you for liking, watching, engaging in any manner, commenting, whatever, hitting us up on Twitter. Always welcome to have a chat. And especially if somebody who's come over from the Twitch side as well. It's been really cool to see people from the Twitch chat popping up into these comments and things as well. Anyway, with that, I say thank you for watching and I bid you adieu. Adios.
Later.